You forced yourself on one of my soldiers. Ashley, oh, I could squeeze the breath out of your body with my own 2 hands. My mouth knows every inch of your body, but your soul...
I swear to you, I swear I am a changed man.
I am not losing my soul under your command.
Christ! Don't move! Don't! Morrison! Morrison!
About 5 years ago, I realized that my aesthetic has been changing, and I started to, I think, starting somewhere around Eurydice, the play by Serarul, and then going into Macbeth and Angels in America, Hourglass, Scorched by Vajdi Mouawad, that I have started to work with these open spaces and really focused on actors' presence on stage. I started to work with Jean-René Toussaint and now with Theodoros Terzopoulos. Both are European directors and teachers, and who are really focusing on bringing the focus back into the body and actually kind of activate the body imagination.
Right.
We call that you are not imagining everything through your mind, which reduces everything right away.
Right.
You know, because you are then just projecting your own experiences on the character instead of actually character giving you possibilities to grow and to become larger than yourself or bigger than yourself or what you know, or different than what you know. And I think those are possibilities because the body has memories that are ancient, they are old, and they can come out through these exercises.
I am playing Don Juan. He is a career Marine who spends the majority of the play searching for his ex-girlfriend, Cressida Morrison. He travels to Philadelphia where he met her 4 years prior and essentially walks about going from neighborhood to neighborhood trying to find her, talking to the people that she knew, where she worked, her best friend Sheila, and making these connections through these people you know, that in a way bring him a little bit closer to Cressida than he was before. You know, using Philadelphia as a backdrop to discover itself. It's Philadelphia's history. And I don't mean the Liberty Bell or Independence Hall. It's the Move bombing. It's the Tun Tavern, which was the birthplace, considered the birthplace of the Marines, which of course doesn't exist anymore. There's a memorial plaque where it was over in Head House Square district.
Welcome to the Tun Tavern. Hey, you're here to sign up. Oh, likely lad, do you need a pen? Is this the Tun Tavern? Tis! And if you have your whips and your legs and arms intact, sign here. I
play Cressida Morrison. She eventually becomes, over the course of the play, Sergeant Morrison. She enlists in the Army Reserves as a means of paying for her school, getting health insurance, finding, I think, a place of belonging or a tribe. She comes from a small family. The father isn't really present. Her mother died when she was really young. So I think she's looking for family and some amount of financial security. And signs up thinking there's really no way she's ever going to deploy. It's just a means to an end, and ends up in Iraq as a medic.
I have to try and get the chaos inside onto the page. I know I can't send this to you, Mom. Mother? Mama? I am sick to my soul. I don't know if I can ever recover. I am getting used to seeing dead bodies. Rubble where I had handed out candy just last week. Men stretched out, missing shoes, bloating in this heat. Hands supplicating in rigor mortis. Women crumbled in on themselves. The sight of dead children is what the sight of dead children does. What the sight of dead children feels like.
In this process, we have just the absolute luxury of time that I've never experienced. Not only time in rehearsal, but time between rehearsals. We did several workshops. We did workshops with veteran writers last summer. So, over a year ago, we were sitting in a room with writers, writing alongside them and getting to hear their stories in their voices. So already beginning to start that process of letting someone's narrative, or even more than that, more than their stories, their voices telling their stories, was already beginning to inform us who these people are. We also worked with Jean-René Toussaint, doing a lot of vocal work and kind of ensemble building within the group, which led to, I think, a lot of shortcuts once we finally started getting into the rehearsal room, because we already had built this very tight group of people who knew how to listen to each other, not just listen to each other's words, but listen to each other's bodies, and cohabitate in a space in a way that we didn't have to discuss or say, hey, is it okay if I do this or I do that? I mean, all of those things were just implied from day one. In a way, because the play is being written as we're staging it, in a way, we're almost staging the play before we've sort of interpreted what the script means entirely. So it's like we're discovering the play through our bodies in space.
We are working basically as a dance company in some ways. Dance companies work this way, that they kind of go into the project with, okay, this is an idea that we are going to explore, and now we are at it, and we'll be working at it, and by 3 months later, we'll be showing what we have come up with to the audiences.
That's right. My notion of theater and all of the artists that I fell in love with when I was really a young girl, the isolation has increased so much for writers because we are unattached to bodies and voices, and this collision, this wonderful creative collision of voices in the room. And I've never in my life worked like this.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Considering how long you have been at it, that for the first time in your life, you're actually writing for a company of actors.
For the first time, I feel like a company member.
In the opening sequence, there's the other character, Cressida, is in a moment of peril, basically, and Juan recognizes that and sees that she's about to step on some sort of IED or explosive or something. And he goes to stop her, but it explodes nonetheless, and he gets hit with the backlash of this explosion. And so we're simulating the idea of him being blown back and into the air just uncontrollably. So he'll take a step back, and we'll just come underneath him and lift him up. And we'll simulate what it feels like to be just blasted through the air.
And the security of having knowing exactly where you are and knowing that you have the space to do what you need to do is helpful. And then also, and then what just happened is really choreographing it really finely. So knowing where your hands are at any given moment, knowing exactly the role that you have in this process. So we've gone from this place of sort of group chaos and discovery into slowly refining it into something that looks very chaotic but is in fact quite controlled.
We've also did this workshop over I think it was last fall with Theodoros Trousopoulos, who's from Greece, who runs the Addis Theater, which is very physically demanding vocal work. And we do some warm-ups each day before rehearsal for about an hour, incorporating that work into ensemble building and getting on the same page with breath. And so this lifting up into the air, we're almost breathing as one creature to try to get it smooth, and to we're actually breathing with Keith, Don Juan, in the air. So it is like one beast, one organism in this explosion. A lot of the work done in the United States is based off of Stanislavski technique, which is a set of questions that you kind of ask yourself. What if you were in this situation? Who's this character? And there's a tendency to get stuck in a psychological viewpoint of what the scene should be, and we diagnose it from a scene from a psychological standpoint. So a lot of this work that we're doing is kind of flipping that on its head and seeing where these people live in our bodies and where the voice comes out, and letting that voice, that impulse, inspire what our characters are doing. So, and being surprised by what our bodies are doing when we put our voice in different parts of our body. So it's a different way of exploring the scene. You find a lot of history that you didn't know was there that exists in the text, because we've been developing this text with Paula Vogel.
I often say that I feel as a writer that there are two things I really need to be able to say and really feel, and this project is no different in terms of veteran experience. I will only understand, a tiny smidgen of experience. Mm-hmm. I'm a civilian. I can't represent it.
Right. I
have no right to represent it. But the fact that I want to understand it is sort of my primary charge. So, I feel like there are two things always that I say. One is, I'm sorry, because I will always get it wrong. And this is true if we decided to work on an adaptation of Ajax, or an adaptation of Shakespeare, or an adaptation of anything. And the other thing is to say thank you. Right. I'm sorry, and thank you. Right. Because I think the veterans we've encountered, and I'm thinking about all of the time that these veterans have given us, and to go back and revisit their experiences and to tell us is incredible generosity.
Yeah. I play Sheila, and Sheila is Cressida's best friend. And I become a lover of Don Juan. We had veterans come into our rehearsal process and tell us about their experiences. So it's given us so much to absorb directly and indirectly. And we go to Iraq in the play. We're actually there. We have explosions and we have injuries.
Well, and the ABC's constantly in your mind. ABC is what I gotta do this. Okay. And sometimes we didn't have morphine, so.
Afghanistan for shoot.
That's another thing you might want to consider.
Come in with it, like when she calls us in?
And then it would just be a 1, 2, 3 lift all together.
It's incredible storytelling with the time and the space, because the PTSD that's happening in Don Juan's head can put us anywhere, at any time, at any place. And it's tracked through Don Juan. Time and space is tracked through Don Juan and Don Juan's PTSD and Don Juan's experiences. And then we put it up against reality with a character like Sheila, who will be a reality check for him.
I played 2 parts. The first one is Sister Ellie from the Divine Lorraine, and that's in the first movement of the play. And she's a young member of the International Peace Mission, which was essentially like a group of people who sort of theologically based, who took over the Divine Lorraine Hotel. And she's sort of a young member of the mission. It's a scene where Don Juan comes into the Divine Lorraine looking sort of haggard, and she and the older sister sort of offer him a room, and then from there, things go awry.
What the fuck? Who's on guard?
Instead of using the standard stage level, they've decided to elevate the stage using the truss configuration and motors which are up in the grid. And the idea is to create a constantly moving atmosphere so as to recreate a sort of surreal environment. And with that, they can better depict these hallucinations that Don Juan has and these moments of odd interaction with the other characters in the play. This can just do about anything we want it to do. As you see now, they're laying the masonite down on top of the plywood, and the plywood is actually 1 1/8 inches thick. So it's a massive structure that weighs a lot. I mean, without humans, we're talking about 6,500 pounds, plus the weight of the actors, and then the combined force of the articulation. I mean, it creates a lot of interesting effects structurally. There will be points when the platform is completely rolled and pitched in one direction to allow the actors to enter from multiple levels in different areas at different times on the platform, and then exit in a completely different scenario with the platform being rolled and pitched in another way. So it'd be very cool because people will look like they're sort of magically coming on and off in this sort of dream state sequence.